Do you know that guy?
Greetings, fellow motorcycle enthusiasts, or better yet, just wanderers of YouTube. You're probably clicking on this video to learn about how to do brass plating. So today we're going to be doing some brass plating. I wanted to kind of talk about how cool it is. It's a great way to add some finishing touches. You don't even need it for motorcycles. If anything that you want that's made as steel based, you want like a brass texture, you can use this technique to brass basically anything. So we're going to go through a couple brass platings on bolts on this BMW R1100, and I'm going to just show you how to do it, show you the tools you need, and how easy it is. But it is a little bit of a time-consuming project, especially if you work with a motorcycle that you want to brass plate all your hardware, all your bolts and nuts and all that stuff. So it does take time, and patience is a virtue. It's a technique. If you overheat your bolts and things like that, you can count them into all sorts of weird issues. So we're going to go through this, and thanks for tuning in. To demonstrate the brassing, I'm going to be taking off this custom handlebar mount I made for my BMW R1100R. If you are a BMW owner, you'll notice that this is definitely not stock, and it definitely is not stock. I did a custom 7/8 bar mount. So what I want to do is I want to kind of just take this weird universal off. I'm going to be brush metaling this aluminum so we get a nice metal, brushed metal, and I'm going to brass these steel bolts. So we're going to go and talk about how we're going to do the brassing technique now. So to brass plate, you're going to need simple things. Obviously, you want brass brushes. These brushes have to be 100% brass. If you go to the hardware store, you're like, oh, I know where these are down at, Tractor Supply, I can get a handful of these. Those actually are technically brass plated steel brushes. So they actually will take the brass right off, and they'll be all steel underneath, and you're not going to brass very well with those. So you need to order these. These are, you can get these for welding. I just went on eBay. I will click a link, or Amazon. I'll put the link below. You can find these on Amazon, eBay. They might take a little bit to come in because they are, probably come from China. I'm pretty sure these are from China. But you'll need, obviously, a good source of brass, a propane torch of some kind. I went with a cheap option. This is just a camping propane tank that you can get at any hardware store. It was really cheap. And then a $15 nozzle. Okay, it doesn't work the best, but you know what? It does the job, and you can get into brassing really fast and easy. You're gonna need an angle grinder. This puppy is important because you want to be able to brush off all the steel. You want to have no oxidations. You want to have the complete rust-free bolt. And then, obviously, a power drill with your brass. The most important part of this process is your PPE. Always make sure you're wearing personal protective equipment whenever you're dealing with high rotating metal things. Actually, there's little pieces of metal embedded in these goggles just from stuff coming off brushes and stuff like that. So always wear your PPE unless you want to go to the emergency room or something. So noted. Okay, so we're going to identify our bolts here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get these all set. So you can tell they've got a little bit of oxidation on them. These are just kind of some cheap bolts that came with the kit that I got for the custom mount, handlebar mount. So I'm just going to brass these so that we get a nice contrast of brushed aluminum and brass. So step one, get the angle grinder out. Just grind off all the rust that you can. Make sure that you get around all the edges. You don't want any oxidation because it'll make a less than perfect finish with the brass. Think of it as brass like a clear coat, or a paint finish. If it's got any kind of abrasive or oxidation or pitting, you're gonna transfer that to the brass. It's not gonna look so brandy new. So once it's grinded, break out the blowtorch. Now it's time to heat up these bolts, and this takes a few minutes depending on the type of torch you use. You can use the acetylene torch. It's definitely faster than the propane torch, but like I said, I'm trying to get into this for a little as money as possible, and the propane torch works fine. So let's let that heat up. So now with the bolts near temperature, we're just gonna heat them up all the way. So brass plating is basically a brazing technique. You're actually causing the brass to melt to the steel. Since brass has a much lower melting point than steel, you wanna hit that melting point right before it oxidizes if it's too hot, and being able to apply a nice fine plate on the bolts. As you can tell, I'm having a little difficulty here. Metal kind of reacts differently in the press after it's heated up. After I'm done brass plating, I add a little bit of oil. This is to kind of create a blackening effect. It's called metal blackening or bluing, and it creates a residue and protective barrier so that you reduce the chance of oxidation. And since these bolts are on a motorcycle that are exposed to rain, we're going to do our very best to ensure that we don't have any kind of unwanted oxidation. So what you do is you basically just add the oil, burn it off. It creates that kind of carbon finish. And then use a little bit of Lucas Dayteller. It's like a wax base. Cleans out all the oil residue. And now I'm going to hit it again with a brass brush. Well, the torch first. Gotta heat those bolts back up. You don't want them too cool or they won't plate at all. It's a fine line between too hot and too cold, but you'll figure it out. And there we go. Get that nice brass finish. And then finish it off with some clear coat. Now I use the clear coat because brass oxidizes because of the copper. So the clear coat kind of seals in the brass finish, seals everything back in, but bolts are hot, so we'll let that cool. Hey, and so that's it. It's a pretty easy process, and thanks for tuning in today. And you can tell right away that brassing really adds a finishing touch to your project, especially if you're trying to do like a custom motorcycle or, you know, have your own kind of unique look, flair, kind of pop detail. That's the cool thing about brassing. It's actually pretty easy to do, and it really brings your project to the next level. So anyways, thanks for tuning in today. If you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to keep building on this R1100R. I will have some videos out. You've seen a couple of them. If you are a subscriber. If you're not, well, you know what? Check out my channel. There's some more videos on this specific bike that I bought for a song from a good friend, and you can see the adventure I've been with that bike so far, this bike so far. Anyways, thanks again for tuning in. Keep your shiny side up out there, and I hope you found this video interesting, entertaining, and somewhat helpful. That's it.